Good morning, everyone. In this lecture, I'm going to discuss about diffraction and different types of diffraction and what is diffraction due to single slit and how this concept is extended for multiple slits, that is nothing but grating spectrum, and how it is helpful for the determination of wavelength of particular light wave. So first, coming to the introduction of diffraction. Generally, when the sky is cloudy, we will not find it complete darkness. That means whenever there are heavy clouds present in the sky, so we could see some light. So it is not complete darkness. And moreover, we could observe sometimes silver lining present in the sky or clouds. So all this happens due to the process of diffraction. So whenever there is obstacle, so at that time the light wave tries to bend around the corners and forms dark and bright spots. So this concept is nothing but diffraction. So the silver lining present in the clouds is the result of diffraction. So sunlight which is coming from the sun, so tries to bend through the water droplets present in the clouds and form the silver lining, which is nothing but due to the result of diffraction. Similarly, whenever we try to stop light wave by keeping our palm opposite to that, so we will expect shadow of our palm to be formed on the screen somewhere. But we could see some amounts of the dark and bright spots along with the partial shadow. So this is also a result of diffraction. So here, coming to the definition of diffraction, so whenever the light falls on the obstacle whose size is in the same order to the wavelength of the light, then the light bends around the corners and enters in the geometrical shadow. So where we are expecting the shadow, so we will be able to observe some dark and bright fringes. So this is due to the process of diffraction. So the light tries to escape from the small openings or apertures or corners present in the obstacle and form the bright and dark spots. So this bending of light is nothing but diffraction process. So here we have seen in this figure, so AB is the obstacle, so which is trying to oppose the light that is incident normally on that. So whenever there are small openings or corners are present in that obstacle, so light tries to bend at the corners and enter the geometrical shadow of the screen. So where we are expecting complete shadow, so we could see some amount of dark and bright spots here. So next, coming to the types of diffraction, we have two diffractions available. So based on the scientists who studied about the diffraction, so we have two types of diffraction. So those are nothing but Fresnel diffraction and Fraunhofer diffraction. So Fresnel diffraction, so it is nothing but, so whenever the light source and screen are at very small distance, so this diffraction can be studied when the distance between light source and the screen is very small. That means when they are separated by a finite distance. And since the light source and screen are very near, so we do not require lenses for studying this diffraction. And this diffraction can be studied only in the direction of the propagation of light. So since the lenses are not available, so we cannot convert that different light rays which are emerging from different light sources. So that is why, so we have to study this Fresnel diffraction only in the direction of the propagation of light. And another important characteristic of Fresnel diffraction is nothing but, so the incident wave must be assumed as spherical or cylindrical. Okay, so these are the different requirements to study about the Fresnel diffraction. So another one is very most important diffraction is Fraunhofer diffraction. So it is completely opposite to that of Fresnel diffraction. So in this diffraction, the source and screen are separated by infinite distance. That means the screen and the source can be anywhere. So the distance between them is very large and they are very far apart. So for example, the sun is very far from us, though we have such large distance, it is possible to observe the silver lining in the clouds. So here this is nothing but Fraunhofer diffraction. So to study this diffraction, we need lenses because light rays emerge from different directions, they travel in different directions. So we need to converge them, we need to bring them at particular point. So that is why lenses are necessary to study the Fraunhofer diffraction. And in this diffraction, um, the incident waves must be plane, but not spherical and symmetrical. So incident light waves are assumed planar light waves. They travel in uh, straight lines, and this can be observed in any direction because we have lenses available. So the light rays which are coming from different directions can be made to point at the particular position. So it can be observed from any direction. So these are different characteristics of Fraunhofer diffraction. So next we are going to discuss about the diffraction. So whenever small opening, one opening is present in the obstacle. So this is nothing but the Fraunhofer diffraction due to single slit. So this is the case where the obstacle has only small one opening. Okay. So whenever the diffraction pattern made by the waves passing rays split off with E. So here the width of that single slit is taken as E, and we can understand this by imagining a series of point sources all in phase along with the slit. That means whenever a light is incidenting on the obstacle which has a small opening of width E, so we understand this concept like, so each point on the obstacle acts like a point source of the light, and waves, the secondary wavelets can be generated from each point source available on the slit. So here the waves moving directly forward all in phase, so they form a large central maximum. So here we will consider the incident light is directly incident on the slit, such that the primary wavelets go directly, they do not have any phase and path differences, and they incident and they are made to converge at some particular point which is known as main focus point P naught. So here we could observe the large central maximum where the intensity of the light can be uh, very large. So here we can see the bright ring, okay, or bright fringe. So whenever the light falls on the slit, so we have assumed that according to the Fresnel and Huygens principle, each source on the slit acts like a secondary source of the light, so that secondary wavelets can be generated from each point source and they travel in different directions. So from the primary wavelets at an angle theta. So the wavelets, the secondary wavelets travel at an angle theta from the normal to the slit. So then there is a path difference between those waves and they can be produced at two different ends of the slits. So here, since each point source act like a secondary wavelet, so these point sources produce different light rays. So those travel at an angle theta to the primary wavelets, which travel in the same direction of the propagation of light, uh, which do not have phase difference. But the secondary wavelets have phase difference along with the path difference. So because these are traveling at an angle theta from the primary wavelets, and these are drawn to the another point P1, so where we can see the secondary maxima of the secondary wavelets. So this concept can be observed clearly in this diagram. So here we have a slit AB. Okay, so this has a small opening whose width is nothing but small e, and O is the central point of the slit. So here we are going to incident WW dash as the plane wavefront, so which is incidenting normally on the slit. So since the primary wavelets travel without any phase difference, they travel along the straight line path, which can be seen by three arrowheads here. So they are brought to the focus point P0, so where we can see the central maximum, where the maximum intensity can be located. And here, since according to Huygens Fresnel's theory, so we have each point source work like a each point on the slit work like a point source, and it generates the secondary wavelets which travel at an angle theta from the primary wavelets. So these are drawn to the focal point P1, so where they can create secondary maxima due to diffraction. And here, for finding the expressions for resultant amplitude and intensity, so we have to draw a normal. So from the point A to the C, okay. So where BC represents the path difference of the two wavelets. Those are nothing but primary wavelet and secondary wavelet. So this path difference BC is given as E into sine theta. So this path difference B is equal to AB into sine theta. AB is nothing but the width of the slit E sine theta. And the phase difference is nothing but 2 pi by lambda into path difference. So that is nothing but 2 pi E sine theta by lambda. And whenever this slit is divided into n equal parts, so because we have assumed that each point on the source acts like a point source and generates the secondary wavelets. So if the slit is divided into n equal parts and the amplitude of each of these waves generated from the each point source is taken as A, so then the resultant phase difference can be given as D equal to 1 by n into 2 pi E sine theta by lambda. So hence here the resultant amplitude, so from the vector calculus, so can be written as R is equal to A into sine n d by 2 by sine d by 2. Since we have such type of n equal parts are available, so the resultant amplitude is again written as n into A sine n d by 2 and sine d by 2. So NA is nothing but the total amplitude of the all the waves, resultant waves, and here this value alpha is taken as pi E sine theta by lambda. So here the resultant intensity expression can be written as, so I is equal to R square, which is nothing but A square into sine alpha by alpha square. So this is the resultant intensity, so which we can obtain, so due to single slit of Fraunhofer diffraction. So now we are going to write the expressions for, we are going to see the expressions required for forming central maxima, secondary maxima and minimum intensity positions due to Fraunhofer diffraction of a single slit. So if you observe here, the condition required for forming the principal maximum at P0, so is nothing but, so whenever theta value is 0 and alpha value is 0, so then the resultant intensity will become maximum. That means I maximum is given as R square, which is nothing but the amplitude square, A square. And similarly, the minimum intensity positions so can be obtained. So from this expression, so we can observe that whenever sine alpha is 0, so then the resultant intensity I becomes 0. So that is why I will be minimum when sine alpha equal to 0. So we obtain the minimum intensity position on either side of the principal maxima for all alpha values that are integer multiples of pi. That means we know that sine value will become 0 at 0 for alpha value is of 0, pi, 2 pi, 3 pi and so on. So that is why here, since alpha equal to 0, theta equal to 0, we have taken the principal maximum. So we are excluding alpha equal to 0 value, but at the other positions, okay, so at the integer multiples of pi, so we have sine alpha as 0. So that is why minimum intensity positions will occur at integer multiples of pi. And similarly, we need to obtain the condition for secondary maximum. Secondary maximum will be occurred. So whenever the intensity is differentiated with respect to alpha and equating it to 0. So according to that, we will obtain the condition for secondary maxima as alpha equal to tan alpha. So we are going to draw the graph for these two expressions, considering y is equal to alpha as one case and y equal to tan alpha as another case. So y equal to alpha is nothing but this straight line, so which we have drawn here, and tan alpha graph is shown like this. So we are going to obtain the points, so where the secondary maxima can be obtained, can be available with the help of the intersection of these two curves. So from the figure, it is seen that at the integer multiples of pi by 2, that means at the odd multiples of pi by 2. So that means 2n plus 1 pi by 2. So we are going to obtain the secondary maximum values. So from the graph, the intersecting positions are alpha equal to 0, plus or minus 3 by 2, plus or minus 5 by 2, plus or minus 7 pi by 2, and so on. That is nothing but odd multiples of pi by 2. So by combining these three expressions, so if we draw the graph for intensity distribution, so with respect to alpha, so we will be obtaining the curve like this. So if you observe this intensity distribution at 0, that means when alpha equal to 0 and theta equal to 0, we will obtain the maximum intensity. And then at the either sides, so we are going to obtain the secondary maximum positions, where the intensity will become larger value than the minimum intensity positions. And at the integer multiples of pi, so pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, and so on, minus pi, 2 pi, minus 2 pi, minus 2 pi, and so on. So here the intensity will become 0. And in between these two, so at 3 pi by 2, 5 pi by 2, and so on, so we'll be obtaining the secondary maximum position. So this is how the Fraunhofer diffraction will appear for single slit. Similarly, we are going to discuss how this will vary for double slit. So whenever we have two slits, two openings are available. So how the intensity distribution of the Fraunhofer diffraction will occur, let us see. So whenever we have two slits, S1 and S2, so with equal width E and separated by the distance D, so then the total distance between two slits is taken as E plus D. And when monochromatic light of wavelength lambda is incident on these two slits, so the light is diffracted from these slits and is focused on the screen by using the lens. So here, the diffraction of these two slits is a combination of two concepts here. That is, one is due to diffraction and another one is due to interference. That means this can be viewed as the diffraction due to single slit separately, and we are going to take the diffractions from two slits separately, and then these two diffraction patterns are going to interfere at some point. So due to that interference effect, so we are going to study the resultant Fraunhofer diffraction due to double slit. So if you write the expression for Fraunhofer diffraction due to single slit, so the resultant amplitude is nothing but R equal to A sin alpha by alpha. Similarly, for another slit it is the same. So R equal to A sin alpha by alpha. So here these wavelets are nothing but these are traveling at an angle theta with respect to primary wavelets. So, but these are traveling through the two different slits, but the concept of a single slit can be applicable for two slits. And now these two diffraction patterns will interfere somewhere so that the resultant intensity distribution can be followed. So here these two wavelets interfere and meet at point P1. So on the screen. So here we will have secondary maxima. So and this is due to this whole concept is due to the process of diffraction as well as interference. So here, if you observe this figure, so here we have S1 and S2 as two slits, and the distance between these two slits are nothing but E plus D, and the incident light is incident on these two slits. So here primary wavelets form the maximum, I mean central image at the point P naught, and the secondary wavelets that are traveling at different angles, so will travel at an angle theta, and they are brought to a point P1. So here it's a slit S1. So we are going to take one diffraction pattern, and at slit S2 we are going to take another diffraction pattern. So these two will interfere and forms the secondary maxima at, at position P1. So here the path difference is given by S2K, so which is nothing but the E plus D into sine theta. So and similarly the phase difference is given by 2 pi by lambda, so into E plus D sine theta. So here if we consider two slits S1 S2 as two sides of vectors, so then the resultant vector can be found with the help of vector addition uh, as AB square equal to BC square plus AC square to AB and BC cos delta. So this is the resultant value which we can obtain with the help of vector addition. So if we apply this to these concepts, the resultant intensity can be obtained as I equal to R square into 4A square sine alpha by alpha whole square into cos square theta. So here we have two different trigonometric functions. Those are nothing but sine alpha and cos theta. So here sine alpha by alpha whole square represents the diffraction pattern due to single slit, and this cos square beta represents the interference due to the interference concept due to the interfering of those two diffractions which are coming from two different slits. Now, if we observe different conditions, so the diffraction effect, due to diffraction effect, so the central principal maxima will be available for alpha value as 0 and similarly theta value for diffraction single slit. So we will be obtaining the secondary maximum positions at alpha equal to plus or minus p pi by 2 plus or minus pi pi by 2 and so on. That means odd multiples of pi by 2. Similarly, between these secondary maxima will have minimum intensity positions for alpha values of integer multiples of pi, and due to interference effect. So due to interference, so cos beta, okay, we need to consider the condition for cos beta. So whenever cos square beta will become 1, so then we will have the maximum, interference maximum will occur. So it will happen for cos values of 0, I mean beta values of 0, okay, and then pi, minus pi 2, pi 3, pi and so on. That means whenever for integer multiples of pi, we are going to get cos value as 1. So here we are excluding, here we are including 0 condition as well, because this is the concept of interference. So no need to exclude the case of beta as 0. So that is why we are going to take m value as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. And this interference will become minimum. So whenever cos beta will become 0. So for odd multiples of pi by 2, so we know that cos value will become 0. So that is why beta equal to plus or minus 2m plus 1 pi by 2. for odd multiples of pi by 2, cos beta will become 0. So these are the positions where we are going to obtain maximum as well as minimum values for the resultant interference due to single slit diffracted light waves. So now if you observe the intensity distribution here, so the first figure represents the distribution of intensity due to diffraction from each slit, and the next figure represents the intensity distribution due to interference effect of these two. Okay, so due to the concept of interference, okay, and the third figure represents the resultant intensity distribution due to diffraction as well as interference. So if you observe this figure, so we of alpha equal to 0 and theta equal to 0, where the maximum density can be concentrated, and for the rest of angles the distribution is like this. But here, like single slit, so we will not have a 0, okay, so intensity positions for any value of alpha. So the minimum intensity will not be equal to 0. So this is how the intensity distribution will happen. So in case of Fraunhofer diffraction due to double slit. Next, coming to the diffraction grating. So this the concept of diffraction can be extended for multiple slits. That means for n values. So when we consider the grating for n number of slits, then it is nothing but diffraction grating. So here a set of large number of parallel slits of same width, which are separated by equal distance, are created on the glass material, so which is nothing but transparent material. So here rolling lines act like opaque spaces. So whereas the space between these rolling lines can act as a transparent material. So these rule lines are opaque to light, while the space between them is nothing but the transparent to the light and act as a slit. So let E be the width of each line and D be the width of each slit. So then the grating element is nothing but E plus D. And if we have n number of such lines per inch, then the grating can be given as n into E plus D equal to 1 inch. So each inch has 2.5 centimeters. So E plus D grating element can be found with the help of this formula, 2.545 n centimeters. So if we examine this grating element, which is nothing but fixed value, we can determine the wavelength of light with the help of diffraction grating, so in the laboratories. So here, what do we need to consider is, so whenever, so white light is passed through the grating element, so it is going to split into number of colors. So starting from the violet to red, that means with the colors of rainbow. So here, the maximum intensity is distributed when the order of n equal to 0, that is nothing but central image, where the all the wavelengths are going to interfere and creates the maximum intensity. So where the image can be same as the incident light, which is nothing but the white light. But whenever the order of n is increased, so then we will have different colors of light waves. Okay, so starting from violet to red. So from the central image, if we are going beyond, so in any direction, so order of the n will increase, so that all the spectral lines so are going to disperse in different directions. Okay, so each spectral line is related to the wavelength of that particular light. So here we will be able to find out the wavelength of each and every light, so which is divided into 7 different colors. So this can be done with the help of the expression. So E plus D sine theta equal to n lambda. So here lambda represents the wavelength of each color wave starting from the V to R. So lambda equal to E plus D sine theta by n. So by using this expression, we can obtain the wavelength, we can determine the wavelength of particular wavelength of different colors available in the grating spectrum. So here this is the arrangement we need in the laboratory for finding wavelength of each color. So here we are going to place one prism table, so on which the grating element can be kept. So we are going to use telescopes and colorimeter for observing different colors of light rays, so which can be split. So once when the white light is focused on the grating element. So at the center we have maximum intensity, which is known as central image. Okay. So at the either side we have symmetrical distributed lines. So by using telescope, by tuning this telescope towards the left side for the first order, we can obtain the reading. So and then we are going to turn this telescope towards the right side, and the crosswire is adjusted such that the vernier readings can be calculated. So now if we find the difference between left side and right side spectral lines, so we'll be able to obtain the diffraction angle theta, so which gives us twice the angle of diffraction. Okay, so 2 theta we are going to find it. So from this we are going to obtain the theta value. So if we substitute the value of theta, okay, so lambda equal to e plus d sine theta by n, so we'll be able to obtain the wavelength of that particular light. Now if you want to determine the another wavelength, so we need to change the order. That means the second order, we adjust the telescope to coincide with the second order spectral line, and the crosswire is adjusted and that value is to be noted. Similarly, we have to turn towards the right side, and again the diffraction angle can be measured. So in this way, whenever we are going left side or right side, so if the distance increases from the central image, the order of the n is going to increase, and we are going to get the diffraction angle for different colors of light rays. Thus, the wavelength of particular color, that may be red, violet, green, indigo, yellow, so can be measured with the help of diffraction grating. So hope you have understood what we have discussed today. So if you have any questions, you can comment in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching.